the wages and blessing never living a lie. So we keep our meditation in the eye. We weather the storm and put up a fight, 'cause we can do anything. Should you feel like giving up, let the strength of your ancestors fill your cup. The power of Jah preserves I and guides in all that good. So evil does me harm, and go back where they came from. No demonic words will form, shall prosper, yeah. Until the older and the science man come, 'cause them can't squeeze me lion bar. No demonic words will form, shall prosper. The wages and blessing never living a lie. So we keep our meditation in the eye. We weather the storm and put up a fight, 'cause we can do anything. Should you feel like giving up, let the strength of your ancestors fill your cup. The power of Jah preserves I and guides in all that good. So evil does me harm, and go back where they came from. No demonic words will form, shall prosper, yeah. Until the older and the science man come, 'cause them can't squeeze me lion bar. No demonic words will form, shall prosper. Come on, you guys out there. Hey, sure. The wages and blessing never living a lie. So we keep our meditation in the eye. We weather the storm and put up a fight, 'cause we can do anything. Should you feel like giving up, let the strength of your ancestors fill your cup. The power of Jah preserves I and guides in all that good. So evil does me harm, and go back where they came from. No demonic words will form, shall prosper, yeah. Until the older and the science man come, 'cause them can't squeeze me lion bar. No demonic words will form, shall prosper.
Hello, welcome. Happy Tuesday to everyone in television land. Happy Tuesday to our silent supporters. Happy Tuesday to those in the chat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate everyone continued support. And remember, guys, when you come in, thumbs up the live, share us out if you can. And if you're new to the channel, please show us some support by subscribing. Tonight's topic is Government Gone Rogue with your host, as usual, Baron and Anne-Marie, and Mr. Rattigan and Maria will be joining us in a little while. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let me just acknowledge those in the chat quickly. I know it's late, so I'm just not gonna keep up much time. So Truck Life, blessings, welcome. Glad to see you have electricity back, I hope. Dorothy McCoy, Beverly, Uriah Walker, Doreen, Elaine, Don Mel, Ronica Palm, Una Vassel, Rafe One, Yvonne Riley, JP, Louis Longshaw, Laris Beckford, Kimon Green, SG, Jeanette Letts, Colin Stewart, Rennie Swaby, Florence Brown, Ruthlyn Matthews, Natalia Freeman, Betty Boop, 76, Creative Minds, Vandetta Kinglord, Six Sire, Debbie White, Jocelyn Williams, Montague James, Marinda Roddock, Alisa Abo, Melody Williams, Marco Legister, Africa Newbie. Welcome, Monica Hall, if I didn't mention you before. Paulette Face, Liberty Toy, Maurice Marriott. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much. without any further delay, I'm just going to hand over to Bear and do some housekeeping. Usually if I lose control of the chat, I will just do an umbrella welcome.
All right. Thank you, Wifey, for that usual precursor as usual. Yes, tonight, let me, before I begin, I want to say again, big thanks to all of our subscribers, right? Diaspora and, locally speaking, right? Persons in TV land tuning in, right? We want to say a big thanks to you. Of course, we'll be joining shortly by Ratigan and Maria. All right, will join us in studio. All right. So let me just say in terms of what we are going to discuss tonight. Tonight we are going to definitely do deep dive investigation, right? That we are going to reveal some very telling truth, facts, as it relates to the Jamaica Labour Party involvement. And let me say this, time and time when I say that the Jamaica Labour Party is a rogue government, systematic corruption, tonight we have all the evidence to prove it. We have done our research, we have done our deep dive, and we are going to prove as it relates to the systematic corruption of the Jamaica Labour Party. And I am going to say categorically clear, without no hesitation, as it relates to the Jamaica Labour Party, right, that align itself with drugs dons, right? Several members of the Jamaica Labour Party who sets up, all sorts of foundation, charity foundations, money laundering. And we want to say, and what we are going to expose tonight is that the United States of America, right, have Jamaica under this particular watch. And so then we have the evidence, right, to prove tonight that we are going to show, right, and for people to understand the level of awareness where the Jamaica Labour Party, right, is concerned. Now, last week, right, I spoke about Caribbean countries who concerned about Jamaica Labour Party and, a few other Caribbean countries, right, as it relates to drugs and gun shipment into the country. So when we see incidents where we have, several number 3 played out as it relates to the recent happenings, we are going to give a reflection as it relates to the weaponry, right, that being utilized to commit these atrocities, right, and where, of course, the Jamaica Labour Party is that we are going to focus. We have the evidence here, so regardless of how Andrew Holness want to spin it, tonight we are going to establish that with evidence. And when we're talking about evidence, we are talking about some of the best investigators known worldwide. We are talking about Wikileaks information that I am going to reveal tonight, right? And of course, we are going to touch again with the drugs in Havendale, in its extension as it relates to, right, the aftermath, right, and where one person was killed, right, in connection with that. It's very serious under Andrew Holness-led government. So the question that we ask is, Andrew Holness and Juliet Holness, are they the drug lords, right? I'm just asking a question, not accusing them, right? Not accusing them. But we have the evidence that we are going to play out. So people stay tuned for that. But before we get into that, because tonight is going to be telling deep dive investigation, not Mystic Sensation saying these things, right? So people is wondering, what the heck I just hear? Yes, what you have heard, right, is what we are going to prove with evidence as it relates to the series of drugs operation and also linking the Jamaica Labour Party with those operations. Yes, indeed. Now, before I start, I want to say that PNP, People's National Party, seems to be taking over St. James. Without any doubt, the vibes, the energy, right, that Mark Golden is kicking up in St. James, right? And we are getting information that, of course, the entire St. James is changing orange, right? Yes. Did you just hear that? The entire St. James, right, definitely is going orange. So without any delay, we are just going to touch and show you some of the energy that building up in St. James. Now for the local government election, right? Yes, People's National Party gained a couple seats as it relates to St. James. But for the general election, it is going to be a clean sweep. It is going to be a clean sweep. Remember, I said this. Remember, I said this, and we are going to prove it. Now, let us get into that Mark Golden clip, right, as it relates to St. James Central, and show you the energy there that is playing out for the People's National Party, right, building the momentum, right, taking over St. James, right, and moving towards, of course, a clean sweep in St. James. We are not taking that back, right? And of course, for the obvious reason, right, the corruption, people tired of the corruption. So without any delay, let us give us the energy that beefing up in St. James. Listen.
If you're over 50 in Canada, you really need to hear this. While you're alive in Canada, our
Comrade Senator Janice Allen, all of the distinguished comrades, colleagues on the platform, workers, warriors, foot soldiers, supporters of Central St. James, I greet you well. I must say a special shout out of respect and joy for the presence here tonight of the distinguished comrades in the front. Comrade Odie Allen, Comrade Arthur Nelson and Mrs. Nelson, former MP, first MP of this constituency, the great man, the governor, Larry B. And it was a pleasure to be part of the ceremony to honor you tonight on behalf of the constituency. And of course, comrades, to have the lovely daughters of the great Comrade Eric Bell here with us tonight is a real pleasure. Big up yourself, Comrade Bell. Comrades, I feel good tonight. When I see what is happening here, when I feel the energy of the people and the crowd that has assembled here tonight at this conference for Central St. James, I know we are heading in the right direction. Comments? My comrades, when you have quality, and quality is willing to come forward to serve the people, it is a very good thing for Jamaica. And we have here in Comrade Janice Allen, a lady of quality. And Central St. James needs a change from what is there now. And we have given you, and she has stepped forward, a lady of quality, a lady of intellect, a lady with a passion for service to the people, a lady with relevant experience over the years that will enable her to serve the people and serve them well. When I see, in fact, the team that we have assembled in St. James for the next general elections, I feel that we are on the right track, comrades. In the local government elections in February, we doubled the number of divisions in the column of the People's National Party. And I want to say a special thank you to all of you who worked to achieve that objective. In the local government elections on a national level, thousands more people voted for the People's National Party than voted for the Jamaica Labour Party. We won more parish council divisions, and we won some important divisions that we didn't have before, councils that we didn't have before. Comrades, there's a wind of change blowing in Jamaica. And it's time come for the change that the people want to see. We have a government that has lost the trust and confidence of the people of Jamaica. There has been a litany of acts of nepotism, cronyism, and corruption over the last 8 years. And as we stand and sit here tonight, we have a situation where the Integrity Commission of the land has said that there are 8 members of parliament under investigation for illicit enrichment. And we hear nothing from the Prime Minister as to how that issue is to be addressed. Nobody has recused themselves from any committee as if anything is amiss. The Prime Minister himself, comrades, is not in good standing with the Integrity Commission. His statutory declaration for several years have not been certified by the Integrity Commission, and a summary of them have not been published in the Jamaica Gazette. We cannot have a situation where this country is governed by a government which is not sending the right signals about integrity and honesty in public life within Jamaica and internationally. The situation as it stands today should be a disqualifying factor from anybody holding themselves forward as Prime Minister of the country going forward. We in the People's National Party come out of the tradition of Norman Washington man, the father of the nation, the man who fought for universal adult suffrage so that every adult Jamaican could vote, the man who fought for independence. And although it was a cruel twist of fate that we lost the elections in '62, and the other side became the first government under politically independent Jamaica, it was the PNP under Norman Washington Manley that led Jamaica to that point. And we have a fine tradition of serving the people in their interests, whether it be in land reform, whether it be in housing, whether it be in education, whether it be in health care, whether it be in social rights and justice. The People's National Party has delivered advancement for the people of Jamaica, especially for the ordinary Jamaican citizen who never had the fullness of rights before. After 8 years, comrades, it is time for us to resume that mission. It is time for us to bring back a government of integrity to the land, a government in which the people can have trust and confidence in the resources of the people. The public resources of the country are used exclusively and only for the benefit of the people. Comrades, we have to build a strong economy that can deliver wealth and create wealth and allow people to create their own wealth across the society. We have a situation where the education system of the country is failing the people. Early child development at primary school, we are not delivering the solutions that the children of Jamaica deserve. Over 30% of children leaving primary school can't read and write, can't do basic arithmetic. They are not ready for secondary school, but they are sent there, and when they get there, they can't manage. It affects their self-esteem. It affects the outcomes of their education. And by the time they leave school, many of them have very narrow choice in life. This is part of the problem why we have so much social dysfunction in the country, manifesting in antisocial behavior and crime and violence. The People's National Party recognizes we have to do something about this as a fundamental objective of the next PNP government. We have to raise standards in the early childhood system, in the primary school system. Our goal is to deliver the best early childhood and primary school education in the Western Hemisphere. We know that that is the pathway forward for a better Jamaica. And we need to deal with the youths at risk, many of whom have been failed by the system, so that they have new options that they don't have now, so that they can live and become productive citizens of the country rather than part of the problem which faces ordinary Jamaicans every day in the high levels of crime and violence. Comrades, we need to build a more resilient economy. Our economy is extremely dependent now on remittances. And tourism itself, though the numbers look good, we see that it is not delivering for the tourism workers the way it should, and for the wider economy as well, because the integration of tourism into the Jamaican economy is not as deep and as far-reaching as it needs to be. We need to focus on that. Comrade McConnell, when he was last Minister of Tourism, started the linkages program. We need to accelerate it and deepen it so that tourism can become a driver of economic wealth right across the economy. And the workers of the tourism sector need to be looked after, and they need to have their rights fully taken care of. Beach access is another issue in the country. We have a system where too many of the beaches of this land are not accessible to the people of this land. That is a justice issue, a social justice issue that the next PNP government must address. We will have to listen to all interests and balance all interests, but the people's interests must prevail, and we must have accessible beaches so the people of this country can have the benefit of medicine and recreating on the beautiful beaches of this country. This is our birthright. These are our national assets. So comrades, this is some of the things that we must do. The training system of the country needs to be brought into the 21st century. We need to have proper partnerships between the private sector and the government in the area of training so that our young people are trained to deliver the kind of services that the jobs that are being created in this time need from our people, so that we can attract the kind of investment that can raise living standards higher and make real wealth for our people. Our people shouldn't have to aspire to go abroad in order to get it in life. We should have the opportunities being created right here. And we need a vision of that. We're investing in our people, kind of lift our people, and then lift the entire society and make the society cohesive, where we all feel part of it, we're all owners in it, and the future is ours to share. So comrades, this is the mission that we are on. I feel so proud that the People's National Party in August 2024 is united and strong and ready to take on the task of the next election and bring it home for our people.
All right, my people, let me just stop that clip. But before we proceed, let us take the pleasure and, of course, introduce none other than my brother, Rattigan. So, brother Rattigan, of course, we want you to grace the stage and, of course, endorse your people. My people is your people. So, please endorse your people, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening. I'm Mary Byron. And
Good
the
evening.
gentleman there in the back. Good evening, sir. And bless up. And all the people in the chat, all the viewers, bless up, bless up, bless up. Another wonderful occasion where we can get to discuss issues concerning Jamaicans, particularly those in Jamaica. We can talk about holding government accountable because that is first, foremost, uppermost in our minds. Holding government accountable. And people, some people they would want you to hold opposition party accountable. To some degree, yeah, you can hold them accountable, but for the most part, under the constitutional monarchy system, there's only hey sis. Hey Byron, you know.
Sister,
I'm ready tonight. You. No, you did. She did tell me she was coming on, but we completely because when I didn't see her, I said, "Oh, she probably changed her mind." And she
Hey, listen. Too many things happen in Jamaica for me to miss this. Oh no. Too many. The issues are so many, and you have to ask yourself the question: is there a government in Jamaica? And if there's a government and it's not doing it what it's supposed to, is there a system of checks and balance in place that can force them to? And if that is not in place, then what is? So nothing is working, so we have to do the work for them.
All right.
And greetings for everybody in the chat. Much respect.
Bless them, Sister
yes.
All right. Yes. No, so thank you, Brother Ratigan, for that endorsement. Thank you, Sister Maria, for that endorsement. Let me tell the entire world who is listening now that tonight is going to be a different night. Tonight we are going to reveal the facts, the history, right? Now, let me say this and let me set the stage. What we are going to prove tonight is information from some of the world's best investigators as it relates to the observation and the deep dive investigation and the result of their investigation, right, as they identify the Jamaica Labour Party to one, link with criminal network, two, deals with drugs and gun shipment right across the borders of the Caribbean into the United States, right? And spread it across the Caribbean. Why Mystic Sensation is saying? Well, rhetorically, of course, we ask that question and we have the answers because we have the evidence to show that, right? Now, but before we do that, we are just going to, this is not about Andrew Holness dealing with PR and not dealing with the situation at hand. And because Andrew Holness wants to win an election, right, he tell lies, right? And, you know, he just being his usual self because Andrew Holness just doesn't know how to speak the truth. And so as a result of that, we are going to play Andrew Holness first. And then, no, we are going to give the people true evidence, facts that we are going to deliver tonight. You know how Mystic Sensation work in terms of research and deep dive. We are going to get into also the Zara Burton investigation as it relates to the possibility, as it relates to members of Parliament, particularly the Jamaica Labour Party members of Parliament, right, taking out several foundations, right, charity foundations, and, right, as it relates to what seems to be laundering purposes, right, who are putting money into these foundations. Now, as I said, we have certain evidence that we are going to reveal tonight. This is not coming from Mystic Sensation, right? This is evidence in terms of any persons who want to question Mystic Sensation, they need to argue with the evidence coming from established people, right? Well-known investigators, right? Independent people out of Jamaica, right? We're talking about, of course, right? Members within the United States organization, right? That carry out these situations. But first, let us begin with our chronological sequence, and we are going to start with Andrew Holness and listen to what Andrew Holness, right, is saying. Most of what he's saying, obviously, they are all lies. But let us listen, because we are going to disapprove everything that he's saying tonight, right? So without any delay, let us play video clip Andrew Holness and hear what Andrew Holness has to say as it relates to him, right? 2015, of course, want to throw out all those political rhetorics, political red meat, and so forth, right? So that is what we are going to do. Break down them in a chronological sequence so that people can understand. Now, we are not like, you know, other vloggers who speak out of our mouth and cannot present the evidence, right? We are the type of vloggers that when we speak, rest assured, we have the evidence. When a Rattigan speak, rest for sure, he has the evidence. When a Wayne Lonesome speak, rest for sure, he has the evidence. When a Aromatic speak, rest for sure, he has the evidence. So people, what we are doing, right, we are going to go through and we are going to present the evidence accordingly. All right, so let us share that information. All right. All right, let us share that information so that people can see what and hear what Andrew Holness is saying right then and there. All right, we are coming up. We have so many clips, but we are going to provide that. Just bear some patience, right, with us, because we want to make sure. Share?
Not yet. I'm going to share it now.
Okay, so we're going to share it now. All right.
We know whenever the PNP is in power, crime gets worse. That we know, I mean, ask no question of. Whenever the PNP is in power, crime gets worse. Now we are going to ask, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Why is it that whenever the PNP is in power, the crime don't get higher? But the nature of the crime becomes more gruesome. Cutting off people's head, shooting pregnant women, invading houses and killing entire families, and then the last thing now, kill a baby, and then the girl decides to retaliate to go kill another baby.
Okay. All right. Now, obviously, the entire world know that that is a lie as it relates to what Andrew Holness said. Andrew Holness said whenever the PNP is in power, crime gets higher and out of control. Now, let us do a comparison as it relates to Portia Simpson time, right, between the period of 2012 to 2015 and 16, John, where Andrew Holness took over the governance. Now, where Portia Simpson handed over the crime to Andrew Holness was 1,208. I want people, I am not even going to do the Google information. I want people to Google that themselves. That when Portia Simpson left handed over power, the crime stat as it relates to number 3 was 1,208. At the commence of Andrew Holness's governance, 2016 and ending 2016, crime got over out of hand, reaching at over 1,500. That statistical data is there to show as evidence. Now, as we speak, during Andrew Holness's tenure between 2016 until we speak today and tonight as we speak, Andrew Holness has not taken the crime as it relates to number 3, right, under 1,208. So Jamaica, we are going to dismiss the vicious lie that Andrew Holness has been saying, right? Now, we are going to give testament of that. Now, I am going to ask, you know, as I said on my panel, you know, we have respect for the ladies. So we always have ladies before gentlemen. Maria, let me say, right, do you confirm as it relates to the statistics relating to Portia Simpson governance as it relates to Peter Bunting being the Minister of National Security at the time, handed over the crime situation at 1,208. I just want to give your awareness on it. What do you say about that?
Yeah, it's rather unfortunate that Andrew Holness politicized the crime, you know, situation in Jamaica. No government should politicize crime because it's not something that affects JLP and not PNP. It affects Jamaicans of all stripes. So you can't politicize crime. But to hear him say that, you know, you have to wonder what was he thinking? What was he on to say that? And when Peter Bunting was Minister of National Security, there was a program in August Town. The MP then was, I think, was Andre Hilton. And they had a program there. And for 1 year, there was not one single murder in August Town. But when they took over, they scrapped that program. And the question is, why did they scrap that program? It worked. So instead of duplicating it in other areas, they got rid of it. And hence now crime went back up in August Town. So something is wrong with that picture. And, you know, he talked about the baby crying and us and saying that, you know, if they had kept the government in office, then I wonder what this baby that, you know, condolences to the family, that the families that have suffered such tragedy right now in Clarendon. But I wonder what the baby in this situation is dreaming him to say. You cannot use these things as political fodder. You are talking about people's lives. And Portia Simpson had it up 1,208. At one time it was 1,205. But use that when he took it over 1,208. He's yet to get to that number. And remember now, he was a part of Bruce Golding's administration when they had the Tivoli Gardens incursion. So it cannot be that he would come out and use something, you know, so serious as crime to make it a political football. It is not. No one should politicize it. And I wouldn't want the opposition now to come out and say, you know, anything about crime in a way that make it seem as if they alone can do it. Because Andrew Holness said he alone can do it. Andrew Holness promised that people would sleep with the windows and their doors open. And one person tried it, and he's 6'6", you know? And today, nobody has been able to sleep with their windows and their doors open. And to blame it on one political party is unfair. You can look at the policies of the administration and you can criticize the policies, make recommendations that can add to, what it is that you're doing to alleviate the problem. But you cannot come out and say full-throated that because PNP is in power, this is happening and crimes are more gruesome. Look at what is happening on his watch right now. Look at what is happening on his watch. So he, he put himself in this position. And on top of that, you have a national, and we cannot forget this point, that the national security minister, his name is embroiled in Wikileaks. So if your national security minister is so compromised, how can he do anything to address the problem of national security? Now he's asking the opposition to be a part of dealing, helping the government to manage the crime situation. I wouldn't be a part of it because so many things the opposition has been, has put forward legislation-wise, and they did nothing. The opposition speak out against constitutional violation. They do nothing. So why now conveniently you want the opposition to come in and do something with you? Crime is not a joke. It affects everybody in Jamaica. It affects people the world over, because when you look at crime and you look at the drug bust and all that, which I know we're going to talk about, it affects many people, right? So it's unfortunate that he did that. And where has it gotten him today? Because now anything Andrew Horne said as opposition, you can find something to play now in government that applies to him. And this is one of those things. And it is so sad that he did it, because for every, they talk about crime in terms of statistics and percentages. But that's the life you're talking about. Because if it's 1,000, that's 1,000 lives lost. But what about the families left to deal with these, with the ramifications of not having that loved one home? Whether it's a father, a mother, a sister, those families are traumatized for life. They have to deal with not having this loved one around if they got the person's remains, and worse if they did not get the person's remains. So, crime is not to be politicized, and it's rather unfortunate Andrew Horne has found himself in this situation. And here he is now as Prime Minister, and he's asking people not to politicize it. You started it and we're finished it.
What a contribution there, Sister Maria, dissecting the situation as it relates to Andrew Horne's political rhetorics, right? That only based on lies, deception. Brother Rattigan, please take it away as it relates to your observation.
If when people could make the argument that when the opposition speaks about crime, it is politicizing crime. People could make the argument that when the government speaks about crime, it's politicizing crime. Well, let me give you a third voice. That's an independent and objective voice that they can't really point and say, well, this group is politicizing crime. And that group is the U.S. Embassy. There's a certain gentleman over there, or a woman, I'm not sure who occupies the post. There's a post over there called a regional security officer. Now, that person's job is to protect embassy and its personnel. I dare say that that person knows more about crime in Jamaica than the police commissioner and the high command. That's that person's job, to make sure that the buildings, the facilities are protected and personnel are protected. Now, they put out a threat advisory in January of this year. They've had several of them every I think it's every 6 months or so they put them out. They just put out one about what, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And there's a section on there about, and the Canadians put out one as well. And there is a section in the American version about crime. And for Clarendon, sis, but for Clarendon, in January, they essentially said, drive through Clarendon at your own risk, at high speed.
Don't stop at all.
Look left, don't look right. Stay on the highway. Yeah, they said that. And they said it 2 weeks ago, and I can tell you what happened, because the shooting took place, the shooting took place when? On Sunday? Was it Sunday?
Yes. On Sunday, yes.
And on Monday, when they had the senior staff meeting, and I can tell you how senior staff meetings, how they operate. Monday, when they had it, I'm telling you right now, the RSO, he was congratulated for his report reflected in the threat advisory, saying that do not stop in Clarendon. Stay on the highway, keep your head straight, keep your foot on the gas. So when they talk about crime, they're meaning the U.S. Embassy through the regional security officer. They're saying Jamaica is a hotbed. Jamaica is a haven for crime. I'm not the one saying this, folks. Go read the threat advisory. Go read the threat advisory when they speak about violence in Jamaica. And so they're saying, look, to American citizens, it's a level 3, meaning we're basically advising you not to go. A 4 is do not travel. It only goes from 1 to 4, right? A 4 is do not travel, like to Iran and North Korea and places like that. A 3 is pretty close. It's saying, you know, we're not advising you to travel, but if you want to go, here are some of the risks you face.
Yes.
And what they're saying is that you face grave danger, physical danger, if you travel to Jamaica. Notwithstanding the medical sector and all that stuff, because the 4 is based on 2 things. It's based on medical facilities, medical service, but also crime. So I could just look to the RSO's report and not even worry about what the government is saying, not worry about the opposition is saying, and said, here is somebody who doesn't have a dog in the fight. Because they're trying to protect their people and protect people, Americans traveling to Jamaica. Now, second point, and I haven't been following the story, but I heard you say that the Prime Minister is asking for some kind of a sit down with the opposition to try and chart the way forward. This was done in 2020. There's a program called Consensus Monitoring on Crime, CMOC, and it's still in effect right now. And for that program, a whole bunch of people signed on to it. Civil society, religious groups, opposition, government, educators, a whole bunch of people signed on to it. And so you ask yourself, where is that going? Where's the CMOC? Because it was heralded as the way forward to addressing the crime issue in Jamaica. And it was a very ambitious and very comprehensive plan. It talks about the judiciary, the penal system, and the law enforcement, meaning the JCF, as well as the military. No, I'm not sure. No, the military, I don't think the military was there. And this was supposed to be the panacea. This was supposed to be like the cure-all, except that we had early warnings that this wasn't going to succeed, because the Minister of National Security, who was supposed to attend the meetings, he did not attend most of those meetings. And his excuse was that, oh, I thought we were just having it to deal with violence in the upcoming elections in 2020. And since the elections ended and we didn't have any violence then, so I didn't show up. How can you run a country that is teeming with crime and criminals like that in a cavalier fashion? How can you do that? And exactly. This is what the Jamaican people, this is the state they're left in. Third point, this is the same Prime Minister who said, you will be able to sleep with your doors and windows open. We must never let forget that he said those words. We must never, and also you complement that position with, my government has spent more money on national security than any other government. We need to marry those two, because we need to say, well, if you spend so much more money and if you think that money would guarantee results, then you have failed. Because when you took over the reins of power, the murder rate was 1,208, and we haven't been at or below 1,208 since 2015. So the question you ask the Jamaican people is this: despite what they're saying, crime is going down. Now we've seen reports where there's a crime is going down, murder is going down, everything is going down. The one question that has not been asked is, do you feel safe? They're giving you statistics to comfort you, but do you feel safe? Ask the people in Clarendon tonight if they feel safe.
Exactly.
I dare say they do not.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Ratty, for that contribution there. And let me just add in terms of what Rattigan just said. It is totally disingenuous for the Prime Minister to be taking, as it relates to his PR stunt, to be taking 1 month, right, out of the year and comparing it with the previous year, to the fact that that particular month crime has been down, right? And then when you look, you realize that, okay, here we have the situation that recently occurred where 8 persons, right, being killed. I know that. Now change the statistics. Now, what the Prime Minister need to understand, because the Prime Minister just want to, right, tell lies, continue with his disinformation and misinformation to say that crime is down by just using that 1 month. Let me say this to Andrew Holness. Andrew Holness, we are looking at the crime statistics annually. Let me say this to you. And we are also utilizing what we call our performance matrix as it relates to a year-to-year situation under the performance matrix of the Minister of National Security. So then, argument's sake, let me give you the example, sir. Like in 2022, right, year ending, if you want to use the financial year, right, April 1st to March 31st, the preceding year. If you want to use the financial year, right, the year ending showing the stat to say that the crime is 1,300, right, for that 2023 financial year. We want to see the 2024 financial year to making that comparison. So, Andrew, let me tell you, that is the comparison that you need to take to the people as it relates to year and using a performance matrix, you understand, to definitely assess the Minister of National Security performance and other ministers' performance. You need to have a performance matrix for them, because under that particular performance matrix that I'm talking about, you will now realize that Oris Chang is a callous failure. If you are to use, and let me explain it to people so that people can understand. If you are to use a bar graph, you understand, and add those data, put in those data. So then we said, okay, the Jamaica Labour Party took over the governance, right? Let us look how the Minister of National Security performed between 2016 to 2024 as we speak, in comparison to Portia Simpson performed 2012 to 2015, right? So let us look at that. When you look at that, you will realize that Oris Chang is a callous failure. Look here, Andrew Honest, let me tell you something. Your dinosaurial politics in terms of you coming out and you spin, right, and you try to use spin doctors to spin wherever. Look, grow up, Andrew Honest, grow up. You're talking about social media. The persons who are on social media, right, who have the capability to understand these audits, to understand these matrix, you cannot fool the people again. We are here. We are here, so we are telling you, right? So when you come out and you explain something, you understand, we are going to show you that, listen, don't use an individual month, right, to say that crime is going down to make Oris Chang look good. Because, you know, I don't want that fun.
But 1 second before you move on, as you're on that point, yes. Andrew's a gig, so he will always spin. But Rattigan, you always talk about how they calculate the figures for the murders, and it's not an accurate calculation. So explain so people can understand that when they give these figures, they are not giving a full picture of the crime statistics, especially as it relates to murder. So Ratigan explain that before, before thing the move. Mr.
Yes,
Ratigan.
please explain that as it relates to what
Maria. The way it works is that if you go back, folks, and you look at some of the years, past few years, at the end of the year, you'll see they'll give you a report and they'll say 100 people died. But if you wait and you go back and you look at that report, like 6 months later, you'll see them say 105 or 110, whatever the number is, it's going to change. Well, we're not paying attention to the change. We're just paying attention to the initial report. But here are some ways in which they play games with the statistics. What they do is they have several categories where they put deaths in. For example, they have self-defense. They have where they say, okay, it looks like the person was attacked and the person responded. So you have self-defense, you have suicide. And you have to question some of these categories because the suicide category would include the gentleman who flew off the Spurtree Hill and then got off and then went and found a tree and conveniently hung himself. So that's a suicide, right? Then you have some of these missing persons. They told me that they don't have, in writing, they told me they don't have a missing persons category. But then I spoke to a journalist who received information about missing persons. And when you say persons, we're talking about adults, because Betty Blaine, God rest her soul, she used to keep stats on children, only children. And then the big one is death investigations, where they put a whole, as of about 2 months ago, they have 300 and, no, was it 300? Yeah, they have 300 and something bodies in there, in that category, right? From 2016 till now. And you mean to tell me that from 2016, I think there are 50 something bodies in there from 2016. From 2016 till now, you can't clear up a death that occurred in 2016. We're in 2024, right? That's what, 8 years. And remember, we have some of the finest investigators in the world. And those are not my words. Those words came from the Minister of National Security.
It's a joke.
The Minister of National Security said that. So what happens is that you are not going to get an accurate count of the homicides in Jamaica. You're not. Because I've been told that even when they make the adjustment later on, that there are still some hanky-panky. There's still some hanky-panky going on with the numbers. But keep your eyes, folks, on death investigation, because that's the big pool where they have a lot of bodies in that pool. And like I said, you have people who died in 2016, and 8 years later, our top flight investigators and the pathologists, they can't determine cause of death. They can't. Crazy. Plus, there's another category where people are actually waiting for the pathologist to determine cause of death. Now, I've been told that there's only one government pathologist. That's a shame. That's what I've been told. There's only one. One for 3 million people, or almost 3 million people.
It's
right?
crazy.
Yeah, it's one. So, when you hear these things, folks, you have to do like Mystic and do like Maria. You have to dig a little deeper. You have to pull the veneer. You have to pull up the hood and look on the engine. That's what you have to do. Don't just listen to the song. Open it up and look. That might be a lawnmower engine inside it. And that is what I'm going right now. They might play games with the things. And watch. They changed the numbers. I think last year they changed the numbers. I think they changed them the year before. They're going to do the same thing this year. But this year's stats, you won't get it until the beginning of next year.
Yes.
And just follow, as I'm saying, watch the ride, because what you're going to see is that it's going to change as well. Because what's going to happen, they're going to take people out, and some of these people, they're going to have to put them in the homicide category. So the number that you get at the beginning of the year, that is not the number that you will see in the middle of the year.
Exactly. Thank you for that wonderful contribution to clear up how those data have been utilized. And as I said, I am giving an encouragement to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister needs to listen. If you're not bringing forward an annual stat, don't bother with it. We want people to understand the clarity. As it relates to the example, 2023, right? The crime was 1,300. 2024, the crime is one, and so forth and so forth. That is what we want. You don't choose a month that is going to support your narrative to the fact that the crime low in that month, and you are now making a judgment, a comparison with the previous month, right? Don't do that, Prime Minister. That is disingenuous. That is disingenuous. You understand? And please tie your member of parliament and performance matrix. You understand? Because we need to see their performance, right? Because obviously, the entire Andrew Holness-led government, right, is a callous failure to the Jamaican people. Now, Brother Rattigan, I want you to tighten your seatbelt because we are going to take off. Please tighten your seatbelt. And Maria, tighten your seatbelt because what we are going to do now, we are going to lift up, right? We are going to taxi down the runway, and we are going to fly to the destiny of truth.
1 second before you fly to the destiny of truth. Let me just interject with your permission, sir.
Okay.
Well, with your permission, let me just say
one
quick thing. You were talking about performance matrix, performance evaluation.
Yes.
We must not forget that this is the same Prime Minister who said every minister will get a performance letter.
Yes.
Where is that performance letter for the Minister of National Security? And is it and his performance, is it pass or is it fail? Is it pass, fail? We don't know. We want to see it.
But
or at least if you don't want to give it to us, come out and talk to us about it.
Okay. So Ratty, if you and I to utilize the bar graph right now, as it relates to said 2016 to as we speak, that bar graph would have Horace Chang as a child's failure in comparison with the PNP Peter Bunting being the Minister of National Security between 2012 to 2015, Andrew Holness to Horace Chang 2016 to as we speak would show Horace Chang as a careless failure as it relates to the amount of number 3, right?
Actually, 1 second.
Yes.
It was Bobby Montague first in 2016, I believe.
Bobby Montague, yes, you're right.
Yeah, and then Horace Chang replaced him. Yeah.
I think Horace Chang came in what, 2018, 2017,
2018.
Somewhere
around. Yeah. I think it's like 2018, somewhere around.
2018, right? So between him and Bobby Montague and Horace Chang, callous failure, right? In comparison to the People's National Party, Peter Bunting, Minister of National Security. Now we have the evidence that people can prove that on by themselves, right? You can go on the Jamaica Conservative Force.org and get that information, and you see for yourself. So it is not like we are spinning anything. The truth is the truth. Now, where we are going, let me warn the people. My mission tonight is to show the Jamaica Labour Party involvement, right, with drugs done. Drugs shipment and gun shipment across the Caribbean Sea and also into the United States. This is not what Mystic Sensation is just speaking out of his head. We are going to get into the Wikileaks report. Now, remember, I spoke to, as it relates to Bruce Golden, Unleash, Andrew Holness, and us. What the data is showing people is that under Bruce Golden tenure and Andrew Holness tenure, the drugs operation increased the drugs operation get rampant, right? And I mean in the history of the entire politics. And what I would want any GLP political scientists, right, to come out, right, and say, Mystic Sensation, you are wrong. This is one of the reasons why I bring forth the data tonight to show that when Andrew Holness is talking about when People's National Party in power, the crime goes up, you are dead wrong. And the research is not coming from internal Jamaica. It is coming from external Jamaica as it relates to United States, other countries. You understand? Caribbean, UK. You understand? And these people are not political bias. Have no biases. So let us get into the first thing, right, to link. First, we are going to begin with Bruce Golding administration with WikiLeaks. We are taking our people there as it relates to the information. Without any hesitation, let us bring up the WikiLeaks information. Jamaica ignoring Cubans' concern of drug smuggling. Let us get into that, people. So we are going to write this report and break it down for you, where the Cubans are saying, let me tell you what they're saying exactly. Jamaicans ignoring Cubans' concern of drug smuggling and other Caribbean countries who are concerned. Right? Bring up that documents, bring up that WikiLeaks documents. The people are waiting for it. And people, look who WikiLeaks identified. Right? None other than Dudus, who associated with the Jamaica Labour Party. My people in the diaspora locally, right? Analysis, let me show that, right? Inside crime. So this has nothing, right, as it relates to any information, right, coming out of Jamaica. This is WikiLeaks, right? We are talking about apex investigators, some of the best in the world, right? Analysis, WikiLeaks, Jamaica ignoring Cubans' concern of drug smuggling. This was done by the Inside Crime, 17 December 2010. I want to show you this. And 2010 is the period where Bruce Golding was in government between 2009 until he resigned 2011. What bring down Bruce Golding is as a result of his government linking with drugs done. Linking with drugs done. So I want the world to see this. Cuban officials were repeatedly frustrated by their attempts to engage Jamaican authorities on the issue of drug trafficking through Cuban waters and airspace. A U.S. diplomatic cable from Havana, released by the whistleblower site WikiLeaks, reprinted here, reveals. Now the following has been revealed. The cable, dated 11 August 2009 and obtained via the cablesearch.org website, said the matter came to a head after the Cubans had captured 3 crew members of an airplane that had emergency landed on the island after dropping 13 bales of marijuana in the Santa Ana Lucia Beach. Remember that we have seen recently planes that came into Jamaica crash, right? No black box being found and so forth. So this is just not recent happenings. These happenings have been happening under the Jamaica Labour Party government, where planes just fly in, whether it's below radar or whatever, come in, right? Drugs, coke being found, right? And no arrests being made. So let us read on. In the Camagüey province on the northern coast of Cuba, the drugs were supposed to be floated into the sea where 2 go fast were awaiting the cargo. The cable said, but the airplane experienced engine trouble. The Cubans told U.S. officials. So I am saying that United States has been monitoring the Jamaica Labour Party government from 2009 as it relates to Bruce Golding government. Jamaica's government has long had a problem with drug trafficking. Here's the line there. But government complicity, not Mr. Sensation word. Government complicity. What this means? Government tolerance with drug traffickers came to the forefront in May when the government of Jamaica announced it would extradite Christopher Coke, shown in the photo, alias Dudus, to the United States to face drug trafficking charges. Loyalists of Coke barricaded themselves into poor neighborhoods such as the Tivoli Gardens. The fighting left at least 75 dead, most of them civilians. Coke later turned himself in, but not before the embarrassing revelations of the ruling Labour Party dependence on votes that the criminal syndicate, here they are saying it, the criminal syndicate like the shower posse, the one Coke ran from Tivoli Gardens, regularly obtained for its candidates, and the nearly 9 months of stalling by Prime Minister Bruce Golding before honoring the U.S. extradition request. Jamaica's legislature has launched a commission to investigate the Golding government's decision to hire a law firm in the United States to lobby on Coke's behalf against the extradition. Just imagine, people, the Jamaican government, you understand, gone beyond the extreme, using taxpayers' money. Using taxpayers' money. I want people to see this and let it resonate right in our brains what the Jamaica Labour Party has done, using our tax money, right, to get lawyer for Dudus. You understand, who is a known drug trafficker, right? That is how our tax money has been utilized by the Jamaica Labour Party to get off the drugs done. The Jamaica Labour Party, who affiliated and associated with not only Dudus, but several drug dons. Let us get on. Golding released a statement on Thursday saying he replaced the head of the anti-narcotics unit following Cuba's complaints. The Associated Press said in a report, in the statement, the Prime Minister said there had been full and active cooperation between Jamaica and Cuba on counter-narcotic surveillance and interdiction, and no concern has been expressed by the officials of the Cuban government, where the Cuban government is saying that you people, you Jamaicans, the Jamaican government, right, doesn't care to fight the drugs, right, within the Caribbean circle. Now, two other things stand out from the document. The U.S. cable says the Cuban government seems have a genuine interest in anti-drug matters. The U.S. government's level of engagement with the Cuban and drugs issues. Let us read on. The Cubans have an up and down history with drug trafficking and are often portrayed as being as lax as they portrayed the Jamaicans. U.S. engagement, meanwhile, appears to be on the uptick in his story on the leaked document. The Miami Herald, Juan Tamayo, says the document hinted at an easy cooperation with Cubans' anti-drug police who brief the DIS, the Coast Guard drug inter-specialist, regularly on drug cases and invite him on trips to the provinces to inspect seized shipments. U.S. and Cuban diplomats in Havana and Washington generally cannot travel far from their bases. Let us take that away. Now we are going to show a more serious situation here. Now, panel, I am going to read the next document before we take it away. and read the next document to show that it is just not Cuba, right? And other Caribbean countries, I mean the United Kingdom, right? Caribbean countries, the United Kingdom, the United States is looking on the Caribbean as it relates to where Jamaica Labour Party government is concerned. It's very serious. So let us utilize the next document and then we get to the panel. Without any hesitation, bring up the next document. Security challenges in the Caribbean. That is where we are getting to. Yes, serious time ahead with the Jamaica Labour Party government, right? And as Mystic Sensation said, it's a rogue government, systematic design as it relates to criminal activities within the Jamaica Labour Party, linking themselves with all sort of wrong bang. Now here it is. This is not Mystic Sensation saying this, right? We are reading, right, as it relates to the information that we are getting. All right. Security challenges in the Caribbean, threats, migration, and international cooperation. July 6, 2023. Here we have Ivan Ellis, senior analyst. And guess what? These are not people who you will say that carry political bias. They are not Jamaicans, right? They are not Jamaicans. Why? Let me ask the question. Why the People's National Party has not been drawn up in any of this situation? The Jamaica Labour Party, right, has been featured, right, to be, as it relates to linking with prominent drugs done, right, drugs and gun shipment, and where we have our Minister of National Security, right, also came out in Wikileaks cable to be associated with criminals, drugs done, right? Men who shipping drugs across the Caribbean basin and guns filtering all over the place. So when we see murders in Clarendon, we need to ask, what is the source or who sourcing these weapons, right? The Jamaica Labour Party, whenever the Jamaica Labour Party is in power, we have been seeing so much drugs and so much guns floating in to Jamaica space. Let us get on to the document to show that it is not Mystic Sensation view. Summary. The Caribbean faces growing security challenges ranging from geopolitical tensions to armed violence and gang epidemic exacerbated by drug trafficking and competition of drug routes. The region has also been affected by COVID-19 pandemic, mass migration, and money laundering that we are going to talk about in Sarah Burton's report, 18 degrees north. Stand by for that, people. Caribbean countries require integrated solutions to address these issues, including strengthening institutions, combating crime and corruption, and addressing underlying causes such as inequality and drug demand. International cooperation, particularly with the United States, plays a crucial role in facing these challenges and restoring stability in the Caribbean region. Let us turn to our panel. Now, we are in serious predicament under the Jamaica Labour Party government. Brother Rattigan, I want you to take it away for us in terms of what you have gathered from these two reports. Right? Please take us through as it relates to your observation and what you have observed where these two reports are concerned. Go ahead, brother.
Well, the first report I found that more interesting than the second one, because it provides us with examples, concrete examples that you could point to. The other one was more of an academic approach. Of course, it was written by an analyst.
Yes.
if you go back to the first report, if you don't mind, could you go back
Yes.
to the first report?
Yeah, we will take it up.
Okay, let me look at it.
You used to say take it away, now you're going to take it up.
Because I figured
All right.
back what.
Yes, so
Okay.
we are in the first
Go up from it, please.
Go.
Yeah, all right. Well, stop right there. Down a little bit. Down a little bit. No, all right, stop right there. All right. No. If you look at that paragraph beginning with the cable, dated 11 August 2009, right? Thing that jumped out at me, it says the second line, the matter came to a head after the Cubans had captured 3 members of an airplane that had emergency landed on the island. Now, when how does something come to a head? Something comes to a head after several occurrences. Something just doesn't come to a head one time. It's like, we talked to you about it before, we talk to you again, we talk to you, and now it comes to a head because we know it's enough. Enough is enough.
Yes, it's becoming consistent.
Consistent, my brother. So it looks as if the Cuban, based on this cable, it looks as if and by the way, the cable came from the U.S. Embassy or the U.S. interest section, because they don't have an embassy. Back then, I don't think they had an embassy. It's called a U.S. interest section, something like that, because they didn't have official diplomatic relations with Cuba. So the U.S. is saying the Cubans are concerned about the consistent assault on their island with drug mules, drug planes, drug drops, drug this, drug that. What that says to me is that the Jamaican government at the time didn't really care, right? Things just, because the complaints were made to them.
Yes.
And apparently what they're saying is that the airplanes, they're coming from Jamaica. It's almost like a transshipment point. They're coming from Jamaica and dropping the bales of weed, and then they're picked up by speedboats and then they're moved elsewhere. So if it's, and I believe I saw the word complicit someplace where I think you mentioned it, that there was complicit. Maybe it's in the second, maybe it's in the second one. But this is not good. This is not good, because it just shows a blatant disregard for one, international law. It shows a blatant disregard for anti-drug, anti-corruption laws, that you just allow these things to happen. And even after receiving complaints, and things have to come to a head. When things come to a head, it means that something has been going on consistently and people get tired of it.
Yes.
Right? So unless the Jamaican government was paying tit for tat, because I saw another part where it says that they were as worse defect, that they were as complicit as the Cubans. If you go down a little bit more from a summary.
Okay.
Let me see. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, hold on a second.
I think that's the part that you're talking about.
No. Go, keep going, keep going. No, the other way.
Go back down? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, no, go back up. I think we'll pass it.
What is it?
Okay, hold on.
Do you see it?
Yeah, I see. Up some more, up some more. Take it up. No, up.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. Jamaica government has long had a problem with drug trafficking, but government complicity with drugs.
That's what.
Yeah.
No, man, it's not that line. It's the line that says that basically saying the Cubans and the Jamaicans are the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It is down further. It is down further.
Oh, okay, I'm going up. Okay, all right. Tell me when.
Go on. Stop. Right there.
No, there it is right there. The Cubans.
Down history, yes.
Right. The Cubans have an up and down history of drug trafficking and are often portrayed as being as lax as they portrayed the Jamaicans. Right. So it sounds to me like there was just a little bit of tit for tat going on. Like both governments were complaining that, pointing the accusing finger of blame at each other. And that's where that line becomes significant. But be that as it may, and here the U.S. government is not taking sides. It's saying we're reporting information that we received. So I tell you, my brother, as you said before, and I couldn't agree with you more. This is not something new. This is not something that's novel. This is not a one-off. This is something that's been going on for quite some time. And what they did with this report, they tied it to a local gun to say, here is where it's coming from, and here is why the government didn't do what it was supposed to do, because the government stalled and stalled and delayed until finally it cost the prime minister's job, right? Because he had to step down. So all in all, it's par for the course. You know, Jamaica, in addition to being a paradise, warm, fun-loving people, it also has one of the highest murder rates in the world, and it also is a drug transshipment point. It was just this year that President Biden made that announcement, and he didn't need to make that announcement because it's what you call a public secret. Everybody knows about it. So we'll see what happens. You know. We'll see what. Well, we know what's happening. We know that they're seizing large quantities of cocaine, and God knows how much. You know what? You know the quantity that is just passing through and undetected.
Yes.
You know, God knows. So because we know sometimes what they'll do is they'll hand over a shipment so that other shipments can pass through because you're distracted with one shipment. And as an aside, I would like to know the names of the people who have been arrested. We haven't learned those names so far. So, and people, intriguing minds are wondering, why is it that we can hear about somebody who's a person of interest, but we can't hear about a person who's been arrested? So,
okay. All right. When we think that as men, we are strong and dominant, but of course, the ladies always here to cool us down. Sister, go ahead.
Sometimes we gotta bring the heat. My brother gotta bring the heat. No, but you know, I'm listening to it, you know, and I'm thinking to myself about Dudus and how Dudus I don't think he can either read, write, or spell. Yet he was a businessman and he was a multimillionaire by Jamaican standards. And he had all these projects going on. And the part that said, you know, the people were barricaded in Tivoli Gardens. And if we know Tivoli Gardens, you know, it's a community unto itself. Tivoli Gardens is a state within a state. And the condition of the people have not changed since. Let's go back to Edward Seaga was member of parliament. The conditions haven't changed. As a matter of fact, I think they've gotten progressively worse. And what it shows is that who does poverty benefit the most? The few. And the members of parliament the people that become members of parliament for these garrison communities, these communities that are dominated by zinc fence and poor people, like what is behind Rattigan there. The people that become members of parliament don't really care to change the lot of the people that they're representing. Because if they change a lot of the people that they're representing, then the people become informed voters and will be more likely not to vote for people who are not doing anything for them. So they keep the people poor so that the poor people can be dependent on them. And then you have the cycle of poverty from one generation to another. And not very many make it out of these communities to become a Rattigan. So it is an indictment on governments past and present to have not done something about these garrison communities that allowed Dudus to thrive in. Because the stories about his actions in Tivoli and how he treated people and the little girls and little boys that were at risk because of his actions is not something that must be brushed under the carpet. And because he was protected by the political directorate, he was allowed to do the things that he did to its own citizens. And as a matter of fact, the government was protecting the rights of the criminal over the rights of the people, honest, law-abiding Jamaicans. That's what was happening. So, you know, and the thing is, you look at the Cuban report, and like Rattigan said, there was a tit for tat there, you could see that. But the Cubans were, you know, saying, we have a problem for a long time, and they didn't care. So things, you know, stuff happens. So they ignore the warning signs because it's basically saying to Cuba, but we're in the same boat. What are you talking about? Why should I care? You know, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you think about the drugs that are coming into Jamaica, coke is now the big thing that is happening. It used to be ganja. We'd have nothing on it now, no value, nothing at all, because weed is legal. So it doesn't carry the same weight now as it used to. So coke is the new thing. Now, who consumes coke? More often than not, is the people in upper echelons of society, because somebody bringing in $12 billion worth of coke does not come from downtown in any garrison community or from any poor neighborhood. So it has to be somebody in, as Jeffrey would say, the Bumba part of society. And it now begs the question, who owns the ports? Who manages these ports? Because I remember, I think it was on Rattigan's show, we were talking about the ports and the Mexicans that were fired by their government, but they were hired by the Jamaican government. Make that make some sense. Now, if their own people fire them because they are criminals and they allow for criminal activity, they facilitate criminal activity, how can you as a foreign government pick up these criminals? Then it must be that you are a criminal intent yourself. And who owns the ports? Does the Jamaican government own their port where they know what is coming in and what is going out? And again, we have to go back to the fact that in WikiLeaks, the Minister of National Security's name is there.
Yes.
Not my words. His name is there.
Yeah.
And he is the Minister of National Security. How then can he be taken seriously? Can anyone trust him to pass sensitive information onto him about anybody, whether it's in the government, in the private sector, or in any part of the Jamaican society that is trafficking in these in drugs this way, and to do something about it? They can't trust him because he is going to tick them off. There was found at Ian Fleming's airport over a year ago. Has there been any investigation? Has anybody been arrested? The lovely Fix Bailey said, you know, yes, there's going to be an arrest. Why has there not been any arrest? And I'm sure he knows who is bringing these things in. They're not fools. They know.
They know.
They know, but they can least afford to ruffle any feathers, because if they ruffle any feathers, they will get caught up in the web.
Yes.
They will get caught up in it because everybody knows everybody. Yeah. You see, so it's an incestuous place where, you know, everybody's playing in the same pool. And you know who is most affected? The Jamaican people.
That's true.
So the actions of the few put at risk the lives of the many, because the coke that they confiscate, I'm 100% sure, all the coke that was found last week, let's look at that. All the coke that was found last week, I know some of it has disappeared already. It's Jamaica you're talking about. What about the coke from Ian Fleming's airport? How much of it do they have? How was it destroyed? Because normally you're supposed, after you do investigation, and it's supposed to be destroyed. Am I correct, Rattigan? I am a layperson, but that's common sense thinking. Was it destroyed? How was it destroyed? Who destroyed it? Where was it destroyed? And is there a record of it happening? Now, how much of that has gone into Jamaican society? Now, it going into Jamaican society, you know what that happens now? These young people who you see are doing some dastardly deeds that is unthinkable. Were they high doing that? Because they could not have been in their right minds doing some of the things that we are reading about that young people are doing right now. So is the coke that is coming in now going into regular society and creating a bigger problem? So you have the people uptown bringing in the coke, the poor people downtown using it, maybe not even the good stuff, and then they get hooked on it and create all kinds of mayhem in the country. Now you're bringing this coke. Who brought it in? Why has there not been an investigation? Okay, you say you made an arrest. Why are these names not made public? Why are these people sacred cows? It cannot be that you have two laws in Jamaica, one for the wealthy and one for the poor. And when you have poor people looking on at a government that condones and justifies all these criminal activities as long as it happens uptown, they must be wondering to themselves, why then should I care? Then if you, okay, stop steal goat. You need to start do like Andrew Wanis, become a politician, go join with the party, and so you can become a multimillionaire, because that seems to be the way to go. His statutory declarations are yet to be verified, to be certified. Okay? And you have young people looking on at these things and saying, here is a man leading me. And he's statutory, and if you when they understand it in lay terms, no matter how you use the big words, statutory declarations, they understand that what he has and his salary do not align. Is how did you get these things? Because your salary over time could not have given you all this wealth that you have amassed. And so the question is, how did you amass it? So when people are looking on and they don't see any accountability, any transparency, no good governance, they're asking these questions. Why then do you think the society at large is going to be any better when it comes to criminal thinking and criminal activity? And then when you look at the education system that is failing the young people, and you cannot just address the education system from the primary level, you have to go back to the basic school level where they start to learn the skills that they need to set them up for good things in life. So, and the thing is, you cannot address education if you don't address poverty, because hungry children can't learn. And if you don't address poverty and education together, you're going to have this crime problem. So you see, the government, though they say they spend the most money, they have been getting the least results because the people are poor, the children are uneducated, and you have crime going up. When are they going to understand, learn, and when are they going to come up with policies, legislation to address the root cause of the problem, which is poverty and the lack of proper education? There is where the matter, that's the crux of all of it. And everybody is talking about harsher penalties, but harsher penalties for whom? The very people who are voting for them, they pressure their children, and the people uptown do the worst things and get away with it. And they're also part of the crime production in Jamaica. We organized crime, is not about a little boy downtown who knows a CAT is post. It's not about him. It's about the people uptown who have the resources to bring in these things. This is when they talk about guns and say, oh, we need you in the diaspora to help us with the curtail, the importation of guns into Jamaica. No. Talk to your people in the upper echelons of society, bringing in those weapons. It's by default that it gets into the hands of those in the garrison communities and poor communities, and then they turn it on each other. By default. So you have to address the problem from uptown. It's not a downtown problem. It becomes a downtown problem by default. Downtown people, just like them are pickpockets, they will break into a store, they will break into a shop many times because they're hungry. No one is justifying any criminal behavior, but to address it, you have to understand the root cause of the problem. A man who steals off of the government
general tree.
The Jamaican property. It's not the government general property.
This is the people's tree
of Jamaica. And he went and he steal his own Aki. And the governor, he was arrested. He was hungry. Did anybody stop to think about it? When you're going to lock him up for stealing the Aki, you're missing the point.
Yes.
He might not have had a record before, but a hungry man is an angry man. Yet a person who steals $74 million gets 2 years. And when she's finished, she can come back out and she can go and get her manicure and pedicure and get her hair did and her nails did and everything. And she's back in the game. You see that there's a disconnect that is happening in
Yes.
Jamaica right now. That is a problem of government's past, and this government has made it much worse. Much, much worse. When are they going to understand that in order to deal with the crime, they have to deal with it across the board? You cannot give a pass to the people uptown and pressure the people downtown. It makes no sense. None whatsoever. And no country can run like that.
So true. What a wonderful contribution. I say, when the lions roar, lioness are here to neutralize. Right? So, you know, but where we are going in Jamaica, we are going to ask ourselves the question. Judging to the fact that we are dealing with the crime situation, and particularly we're talking about number 3, murder. And we are seeing that the main weapon that's used are the guns that committing most of these atrocities. The next document that I'm going to pull is going to define the Jamaica Labour Party government as it relates to its complicity. And I would say, in extension, it seems like they are tolerating the behavior as it relates to guns being shipped and not having the interest to stop the gun shipment to Jamaica. The next document that I'm going to highlight, we are going to make our inferences, our perception, right? Our belief, or how you want to define what you are going to observe with this information and to define this government. Look on the move what this government is making, and you wonder if this government really have the interest to stop the guns from coming into the country or stop the drugs from coming into the country. Without any delay, I am going to bring up this document. We are all going to read it, and we are going to make our inferences from it, and we are going to get back to the panel as it relates to the next report. Unbelievable in terms of the government policy and the decision making that this government, right, is making, and it just doesn't seem like the government is making policies, right, to move the nation forward as it relates to good governance, checks and balance and transparency. But it seems that this government is heading down the road of crime, and more crime. Let us look at the next document. Jamaica Observer.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so we are getting to that document, and so we are going to dissect that document when we finish, because it just doesn't make sense as it relates to how the government is formulating some policies. Now, people, let me explain this before we get into this document. What we are seeing here, the people that the government, right, is going to lay off, right? These are professional people who use the scanners at the ports of entry and exit to find guns and drugs. But the government is making their job redundant. People, make that make sense. We are struggling as it relates to the amount of guns coming into our island, and drugs. And the people who are trained to observe and identify these things, the government is making their job redundant. Make it make sense, people. Now, 60 to lose jobs. PMSL staff being cut June 30. Right? Let us see it by Jason Cross, Observer, staff reporter. Right? June 13, 2024. Jamaican people, let us make this make sense to us. At least 60 employees of the state-owned Port Management Security Limited will be out of jobs come July 1st when the almost 19-year-old entity is shuttered. In a June 5th letter to the PMSL employees, the Port Authority of Jamaica confirmed that their posts will be made redundant on June 30th, based on a decision by the Ministry of Finance. And people, let me tell you something. We are going to touch the Zara Burton report as it relates to his charity, and we are asking the question, is it possible that drugs dons are financing Nigel Clark charity? This is the decision now that Nigel Clark is making to make these people who search for these weapons coming into the country and drugs coming into the country, to make 60 of them redundant. People, let us make that make sense. And the public service that the non-intrusive inspection program carried out by employees of PMSL should be returned to the Jamaica Customs Agency. Over the coming days and weeks, we will be issuing further notices and arranging a series of meetings, seminars to provide all the necessary information for the efficient implementation of this redundancy exercise. This can't make sense. The Port Authority said in its letter, with their redundancy date fast approaching, outspeaking members of the PMSL staff and Wednesday appeal to the Prime Minister Andrew Holness to intervene and help them keep their jobs. No, he's not going to intervene. You understand? He want drugs and guns to come through. He's not going to intervene. We believe the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Finance and Public Service have ignored us. We just want him to come out and say what is his position on it. We don't have any jobs come July 1st. That alone tells you how it will affect us. Without a job, how am I going to pay my mortgage? The bank doesn't pay with that. You know what they will do? I pay $80,000 for a mortgage. One of the worried employees told the Jamaica Gleaner Observer. Open quote. We were promised by Professor Gordon Shirley, the head of the Port Authority of Jamaica, that he would have made representation for us. He came back and said it had to be sanctioned by Parliament, which means to us that he didn't do anything. He did nothing for us. The employee had it. Another employee who has been with PMSL for more than 15 years said everything has been put on hold in his personal life and the life of his colleagues. Oh my goodness, this is viciousness. This is wickedness. But why these people, jobs were made redundant, and these are the specialists? We cannot buy anything. My wife and I cannot do anything. Everything has to cut back, even the groceries, because you don't know what is going to happen come July 1st. Well, people, let me tell you, I want to vote for him. I want to vote for him, you know. I can't even carry out my wife to dinner because she says, no, we can't afford to spend extra money. Oh, my. You are, open quote, you are telling me that since May 4 meeting, we had with Professor Gordon Shirley, there is no good news from anybody. yesterday while at work, my blood pressure went up. Oh my God, the people them now the fret. When I went to the doctor, she said I cannot allow the present situation to stress me out. And the same anxiety is stretched across the board. Come July, the mortgage still has to be paid. We are asking the Prime Minister to intervene. No, he's not going to intervene. Not going to intervene, remember? Remember? You understand him worse than Hitler? Him not going to intervene. Sit down and talk to us. Is it that we have to go out there and use expletive or ask for a donkey before we can get some attention? Yes, because my donkey man. Just ask your donkey and he will give it to you. Added the employee. Some of the disgruntled workers who claim they are loyal supporters of Honest, but sorry for no, but not loyal supporter of Honest. Yeah, you see what Honest are going on? You see what Honest are going on? I want to put him in. You see what I get now? Have threatened to vote in support of the People's National Party. Yes, can you vote them come over here? Can we come? The next general election, if they are left stranded by the redundancy exercise, what a backside. He, Honest, doesn't seem to care. You never know say no care. You never know say no care. You never know say no care. The only thing you care for, you understand, is to dip in the treasury. Look for them big building. I don't really want to bring in politics, but as a labor right, you are labor right. Well, hear what your labor right leader giving you. A supporter of the governing Jamaica Labour Party, GLP. I can never vote for them again. Hey, backside, what a banger on this. Me vote GLP straight. And it's hard for now. See the man kick me out of my job. And then still, I go vote for him. Papa Jesus, take that away. I can go to the panel. Let me go to the panel. This is a situation I need a panel. Oh my. We need a panel for this. No. You know, let us start with Sister Maria again. Sister Maria, what do you want to go on?
So they remove the professionals and now they leave the fox to watch the hen house. Because is it that the people were doing their jobs too well, so they have to get rid of them? Because when you're doing a job too well in Jamaica, you get fired.
Yes.
Case in point, Chairman James. As long as you're doing your job the way you're supposed to do, be a professional, you have a problem. And it's, you have to feel for those people who have mortgage to pay. School reopens in a few weeks. How are they going to, send their children back to school? So it is rather unfortunate that they could be losing their jobs at this crucial point, and with no response from the government. I don't know what it is that they have said to them, but I feel for them. I really feel for them. And that is why people have to become informed voters. You vote for policies, vote on issues, not for personality, because that personality can become a millstone around your neck. Yes. So you have to vote for, you cannot vote against your interests. But then again, they bought into, they drank the Kool-Aid that he gave them, because all the nice things he said and the way he lambasted government in opposition, there's nothing wrong with when you're in opposition to hold a government accountable. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when you make false promises that are just so well there on a limb, only a bird can reach it, then you find yourself in these kinds of situations. And who suffer? The Jamaican people. And we always say it's one government at a time. And I don't hear, no, one government at a time. And right now, Andrew Holness is the Prime Minister, so we have to address him because he has the power of the purse strings. And you have to feel for those people who do not have a job and they have bills to pay and children to send to school. How are they going to cope? All
right. Let us move to the lion, the fearless leader. Come on.
Careful enough. People don't like when you say that enough. But
I second that.
All right.
When I look behind, when I'm saying lion doesn't look back when dogs bark. So
here you go.
But here's the thing. there's one person interviewed who said he has been on the job for 15 years, I believe, right? So they've been around, they've been on this job for a while. Why were they put there in the first place? Because they do the scanning and you have customs there.
Yes.
Why were they? I'd like to know, why were they put there in the first place? The second thing is their job performance. Why is it that they've been made redundant? By the way, that was in June, July. Do you know if it took place?
Yes.
But it took place. Did they move them and customs?
I was just searching to find out if they actually, but there's no follow-up article to say whether or not they actually made them redundant.
Okay, so I would like to, if they're going to remove them, then they need to provide a reason as to why they're removing them. And if they're going to say, okay, you know what, you're being made redundant because customs can do your job, then you say, well, wait a minute, customs, they haven't been doing the job for the last 15, 20 years. So why the sudden change?
And they haven't trained in that capacity. Mention that, Ratty.
Yeah, they're not training that capacity. So why is it then that they're going, talk about putting square pegs, trying to fit square pegs in round holes.
Here you go.
Exactly it. Yeah. And then you look at Professor Gordon Shirley, who said, I'll talk to Parliament, I'll represent your interest. Then he came back and said, there's nothing I can do. And then the gentleman said, look like he never does nothing. Like basically just go there and just sell me out. If you're going to do this to people, then we need to look at politicians and their job performance as well, right? Because here you have a group of people depending on this job to feed their families, to take care of their families. And then almost like in the middle of the night, you just tell them, hey, look, we're not going to be needing you further. So you're just going to have to fend for yourselves. Now, are those people in the unemployment ranks? And if they're in the unemployment ranks, or they're not in the unemployment ranks, what are they doing to feed their families?
Exactly.
I mean, and then when you talk about the economy is booming, and the economy, we have 10 quarters or whatever of growth. This is not how you do it. This is not how you do it. And again, people, I'm telling you, when you hear these things, you have to pay really close attention to what's being said. Look at the statistics, because a lot of things get bundled together, and until you start pulling them apart, then you realize you won't realize that you're being fed up below sale. That it's not what it's described to be. So I'm just worried about those people.
Yes.
My heart goes out to them. I wish them well. I don't know where they are, but if we could do a follow-up just to see where those people are. And how many? 60? How many people?
Yeah, 60.
60.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know what else to say. It's just terrible. It's terrible.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Brother Rattigan, for that contribution. And when we talk about the Jamaica Labour Party government, and as we talk about in terms of the evidence and the history that we are digging up here, doing the deep dive. Now, as we say, when the Jamaica Labour Party is in power, we see the drugs activity and the guns activity is so active, right? With drugs and guns, right, coming into the country. And so then we are going to move to our next item as it relates to be confirming, right, the situation as it relates to the Jamaica Labour Party, right, dealing with drugs, guns, and you understand, of course, WikiLeaks, Apex investigators, catching on, making their observation and so forth. The United States also making their observation and have information, intel, and drugs operation, and as it relates to how the Jamaica Labour Party link with those situations. Let us look on the next one and let us read through this fast enough. Major drug seizure in St. Andrew, 5 in custody. That is where we are going. All right. Now we are going to deal with this situation again with the Jamaica Labour Party, right? We see so much of these happenings, right? Okay, so major drug. All right, major drug seizure in St. Andrew, 5 in custody, right? And here it is in a joint operation, the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, right? CTOC and the Narcotic Division seized several pounds of cocaine at a premises in Avondale on Tuesday. The intelligence-driven operation lasting over 3 hours resulted in the arrest of 5 individuals and the seizure of 2 motor vehicles. The suspects are currently in custody with their names withheld pending further investigation. Let me just, take it away. Let me just answer this caller. My listeners and people who are tuning in. Right. Yes, caller, you're on Mystic Sensation Live. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to say to you all of you and the panel, no criminal organization cannot survive without the help of the police. If you go to the police station and make a report and John Doe, John Tom, and more Johns, sometimes you are not even reach home at your yard. You're dead.
Wow.
Mr. Prime Minister, I am asking you, sir, to do something to curb that. Please, sir.
All right. So that's your contribution, caller?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Do something to curb that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for calling in, caller. Oh. All right.
Okay.
All right. I hope the Prime Minister listening, because what this man is saying that they are concerning in terms of giving the police information, and then when you look, the information reach into the hands of the criminal. If I believe I interpreted what he had been saying there. And so then,
but before you move on there, Mystic, before you move on, that has been the hue and cry for a few years now, from many people that, something, they'd rather not say anything because they go to the police. The same police is going to go back and tell the same bad man that they're going to report on. Women who have had their little girls and little boys raped, molested by these people, when they go to make a report, they go back and a lot of these police, especially the younger ones, and I shouldn't even say the young ones, but a great many of them are criminals with badge and gun.
Whoa.
So if you cannot trust the police, then who can you trust? And that is why you see the crime situation is so out of control, because the law enforcement themselves are crime producers. So, and how many of the, if you're a junior cop and your senior, you observe, he or she observes his senior running afoul of the law. In a normal society, in a democratic functioning democracy, that junior officer can arrest that senior officer.
Yes.
Not in Jamaica. Because I've seen where, I remember it was there was a police stop, and this young pulled over a car. And when he asked it was his boss, it was his chief. And he was like, Chief, I'm going to have to arrest you. And he was a rookie. He had to do his job. No rookie in Jamaica can arrest any ACP or none of them. None of them. Because somebody's going to call and say, look what happened to that policeman who tried to reprimand Queen E.
Yes.
During COVID, what did Queen E say? Oh, I'm exempt. How can you be exempt? This is a pandemic affecting everybody, and you are exempt from the very laws that your government put in place. And what? He called the Minister of National Security, and the man was put on the scrap heap. No country can run that way and be effective.
No. Well, I mean, if you're in a lose job business, just try to prosecute one of your seniors.
Do the right thing.
Or do the right thing. if you're in the loose job business, right? Brother Ratty, you have anything to say on
Yeah, you know, people talk about the system. And I said, change the system, change the system, change the system. But you change the system and you put the same people inside of the system. What do you think going to happen?
Same thing.
We need a new way of changing the way we approach these problems.
Yes.
You're going to have to change the mindset of the people. I'm not saying you shouldn't change the system, but you cannot change the system alone thinking that that will be the panacea for the problem. It will cure the problem.
Exactly.
No, it's going to be the same. So the question now is, how do you address that kind of corruption? How do you address it? And it's difficult, yet it's easy. It's easy in the sense that you don't have to do another assessment to identify the problem.
Yes.
But it's going to take will. It's going to take skill. It's going to take dedicated people to say, we are going to make the change. And are we seeing that in Jamaica today? Sadly, we don't see enough of it.
See, yes.
We see it, but we just don't see enough of it. And so we keep asking ourselves, when will we see enough that will cause the change that we desire, that will result in a benefit to all Jamaicans? We just don't see enough of it. And part of that is because of the system again and people where, freedom of speech is curtailed.
Exactly.
At least in your mind, because if you come out, because we've seen instances where people came out and criticized the government, particularly the Prime Minister, and in the twinkling of an eye, the person was apprehended, brought before a camera, made to apologize. And so what you're doing, you're setting an example. You're saying this is what's going to happen to you, or worse, if you dare come out and speak against the government. So the real question is, how do you mobilize people to get to the point where you say, all right, you know what, enough is enough. We are going to take a stand and make a change.
All right.
One way you can do that is by being an educated voter. That's one way you can do that. Because, it's not going to happen from the top. They're not going to suddenly one day say, you know what, we've been feeding at the trough for far too long. It's time for some of the poor people, the middle class people, the shrinking middle class people to come and enjoy some of the food here. It's not going to happen, people.
Yes.
It's not going to happen. You're going to have to start from the bottom up. And when I say the bottom up, I'm talking about being informed about who you're voting for. Because again, if you keep voting in the same people and they keep doing the same thing, then you really shouldn't complain. You really shouldn't complain. And we preach that message. But another question is, do they have enough leaders in Jamaica that could mobilize a community to stand up and say, look, you know what? We need roads. We need better roads. We need running water. We need electricity. We need jobs. We need this, we need that. And like I said before, I must say it again. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who. That's between you, your God, your candidate. That's none of my business. But vote for somebody who is going to make your life easier, who's going to take care of your community and by extension, Jamaica. And what I'm seeing from the government in place over 8 years, it doesn't look promising.
No.
It does not look promising at all.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
But you know what? They're very good at making promises.
Yes. Yes.
Very good at that.
Yes.
But piggybacking on what Rattigan said about being an informed voter, in the chat earlier, somebody said that they'll sell their vote for $5,000, which is mean they're in for 5 years, so it's $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, I think it was Leroy said that a mother has 2 sons. One is a police officer and one is a criminal. And one provide information and ammo to the other.
Right. Here
So you see how corrupt the system can be.
Exactly, exactly.
So no wonder people don't want to give information to the police. Who do you trust when you cannot trust the police? Because even in the situation in Cherryfield on Sunday, they are saying that the first incident that happened, they were calling the police and nobody showed up. Nobody answered. And I know they have a 119 number. So what happened? If 119 wasn't working and they spend money on all these things?
The telecommunication system for the police, it was supposed to be rolled out island-wide a few years ago. Nothing. Plus, don't forget, transportation is another problem.
Yes.
I would be surprised if somebody said, "Oh, them take taxi." Policeman them take taxi come on the scene. I would not be surprised.
Great. All right. So we have thank you, Sister Maria. Thank you, Brother Ratigan. We have 2 more documents to go through and end our night, but we leave those 2 more powerful documents, right, to end our night. So we are going to go into one of those 2 powerful documents. And one of the reasons why I leave, right, that report, these 2 reports for last, right, is to show that, look, we have nothing personal against the Jamaica Labour Party. So we are going to show as it relates to, right, external entities speaking about Jamaica. And as a matter of fact, right, we are talking about the President of the United States speaking about Jamaica in the way how we had spoken about Jamaica, right, as it relates to the level of corruption. So when Mystic Sensation is talking about identifying the corruption and the wrongdoing as it relates to Jamaica Labour Party, right, it based on facts. Ratigan, based on facts. Wayne Lonesome, based on facts. And Aromatic, based on facts. So we are going to present the facts as it is. So without any hesitation, hear what the President of the United States of America is saying about Jamaica under the Andrew Holness-led government. Without any delay, let us lift up that document. All right. Let us lift up that document and show, our persons who tune in what Biden has to say as it relates to Jamaica under the Andrew Holness-led government. So when Andrew Holness said, don't listen to them on social media, right? They are lying, right? I want to know if Andrew Holness is saying that Biden is lying too. So let us read this. Now, Biden names Jamaica among 5 Caribbean drug transit are producing nations. Now, let us get into it. United States President Joe Biden has named several Caribbean countries among major drug transit or major illicit drug producing countries for fiscal year 2024. And let us talk about illicit, right? Let us talk about illicit, what Biden spoke about here. Remember that we have 8 persons for illicit enrichment. I wonder if Joe Biden has shown what Andrew Holness. We don't know. All right, we can move on. In a White House memorandum, Biden on Friday listed the Bahamas, Belize, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica among countries worldwide as major transit or major illicit drug producing countries. And when I talk about illicit, we know what a king illicit are. Other countries identified are Afghanistan, Bolivia, Burma, the People's Republic of China, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, India, Laos, Mexico, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Panama, Peru, and Venezuela. All right. Let me open quote. A country's presence on the foregoing list is not necessarily a reflection of its government counter-drug efforts or level of cooperation with the United States, Biden said. Consistent with the statutory definition, and Biden got talk about statutory. Biden got talk about statutory. It's like a statutory definition of a major drug transit or major illicit. And see, talk about statutory and illicit. Yes, so I want to go on. I want to Andrew know so much subliminal for illicit drug producing country set forth in section 48, subsection E, 2 and 481, subsection E, subsection 5 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. Let us take that away. We only want to show that the United States have in their surveillance Jamaica, right? Particularly under their surveillance. I just want to show that. So when we are speaking out as it relates to drugs, right? And remember, people, you know what? Let us speak the truth here. Now, when it comes to, United States travel advisory, as it relates to security and security, right? That deals with drugs and gun shipment and, health, right? I want someone to show me when was that issued under a People's National Party government. Let us talk about the facts in terms of making the comparison. As when we have these travel advisory, now if you are the Jamaica Labour Party government who said that they are doing good, they spend most on security, right, and getting less results, most in health and get less results, right, and where the United States is doing these travel advisory, right? So then when we look under the People's National Party governance, right, we have not seen these things being issuing, right, under the People's National Party governance. Now, in comparison to the Jamaica Labour Party governance, you have seen this. So then what on it? You want to tell me now that the United States is politically biased? Our United States, right, is, a little bit too political, right? I want people to, I'm just asking the question. Are you going to say that the United States is a little bit too political by be supporting the People's National Party and so then issuing travel advisory, you understand, under the Jamaica Labour Party? Come on. We need to call a spade a spade. The Jamaica Labour Party, right, is corrupted to the core. It's a criminal syndicate. It's a rogue government that you have the United States been issuing travel advisory, right, and increase their travel advisory within the same year. It can't spell good for Andrew Wallace-led government. And simultaneously, that you have the Prime Minister who are able to certify his statutory declaration. It just cannot be. Right? Let us look, people. Look in the Caribbean, the entire Caribbean. Let us put all politics out of this. And look in the entire Caribbean. Do we have today, let us ask the question, do we have today any other Prime Minister in the entire Caribbean where that Prime Minister's statutory declaration for 3 consecutive years cannot be certified? It's a crime scheme. It's a crime scheme for the entire Caribbean and where Jamaica is. Right? It's a crime scheme. Now, we are going to get into the particular document and show you something about the next document that we are going to end with tonight. 18 Degrees North investigation and where Zara Burton added some more information on that. And when you look on that, we want Nigel Clark to come out and explain to us tonight, right? We want Nigel Clark to come out and explain who is funding Nigel Clark Charity Foundation. Without any delay, let me get into it and show people, and not only Nigel Clark alone, people, let me say this. Other members of parliament as it relates to the Jamaica Labour Party, right? Taking out shell companies, and we are laundering money through these shell companies. It is just not, it can't look good. It can't look good. It cannot spell good. So let us get into the document and show people. Let us get into that. Zara Burton, 18 degrees north. Question. Did Jamaica Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark use a tax-exempt charity for political purposes? And Zara Burton asks, can he? Let us get into the document. Now here is Nigel Clark, right? Spin all sort of fandangles, algorithm and all sort of rhythm, thing red card, all sort of thing where my fling. And he cannot explain to us who are the persons funding this man charity program. Now let me get into the meat of the matter. Last month, Jamaica Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark won praise for the country's removal from the international grey list of the Global Watchdog Financial Action Task Force. For the past 4 years, he had been the ministerial point person on enhancing the country's counterterrorism financing and anti-money laundering regime, including getting Parliament to pass legislation to strengthen monitoring of the nation's non-profit sector, and in the same time, simultaneously, his charity, right? His charity is not executing these robust programs or policies, right? And yet the hypocrite in a parliament claiming, right, that is enhancing the the country's counter-terrorism financing and anti-money laundering regime, right? These are just big, trust me, they are just a big political disappointment, right? And when you look at SSL, where this man talking about he's not going to leave any stone unturned, right? These are those political canards and trickery that the Jamaican Labour Party is getting Nigel Clark, shame on you. So let us get into your business and show you the hypocrite you are, Nigel Clark. The big old dirty hypocrite you are. But 18 degrees north, probe has found that Dr. Clark's own tax-exempt charity deserves scrutiny. Can you imagine, my people? This is what we are talking about. And you want us to come out and do spin. Oh, PNP are the worst this, and PNP are the worst that, and under People's National Party. You understand? Crime go up and go up and go up. You understand the bug of lie, the bug of deceit, the bug of misinformation, the disinformation, and the list goes on. Roland, who want to know? You understand me? I say they lack innovation, lack policies to move the country forward, and the only thing that they know, you understand, is to dip in our treasury, drugs, gun shipment, all sort of wrong. We sound toxic to the Jamaican people. Now let us get into his business, people. His Growth and Opportunity Trust Limited, set up to serve his Northwest St. Andrew constituency by providing relief of poverty. Him now provide no relief of poverty. His constituency don't know how none of this money I go. And to promote the advancement of good citizenship, or just use words in loosely, and community development, has raised more than $91 million now. US 631,644 donations from unexplained sources. People who don't notice it. From unexplained sources between 2018 and 2023. It's also spent $84 million in US currency, 581,460 over that same time period, with little indication as to how that money was spent. So not spending on the constituency. And yet they say it is for relief of poverty and good citizenship. Nigel Clark, come get a lie. Come get a lie. We want to know who to give the money. Now, of note is that the foundation's two most lucrative odds occur during election years. You hear that, people? You hear that? So then it appears that, you understand, persons are funding this charity for the purpose of campaign funding. I want you to take note of that, people, you know. Let us read back that over. Of note is that the foundation two most lucrative odds occur during election years. According to the foundation, financials feel at the company's office beginning in January 2023. Now, here it is, people. Here it is. Income and Expenditure of Growth and Opportunity Trust Limited, 2018 to 2013. Here's a bar graph representing all the money that going into Nigel Clark Foundation, Charity Foundation. Here on the left, remember I couldn't understand it. Money in millions, you know. And here the graph showing from $0 to $35 million. So make you read the graph now and understand it. Now in 2018, as it relates to his election into the system, his campaign, 2018. You see how much him getting? You see how much him getting in a foundation? 27.8 million. See it up here, so people. We can run off this to 28 million. We can run off this to 28 million. In a 2018, you know, the election year, see that? 28 million. Now, when you look now, after election, you see that trickle down, right? 15.5, see trickle down to 8.2 in a 2019 and 10.3. But now, looking at 2020 people, next election, this, you know, the general election, this, with Nigel Clark, the general election, you know, look at that now. $35.3 million gone in our account, you know. $35.3 million gone in a Nigel Clark account. See it here, people. Now, after elections, we shall get trickle down here. In a 2021, it trickle down. And you know, 5.8. In a 2022, trickle down, 9.7. Now, look at out, people. We'll show that thing now. 2023, see that go back up here. Because remember, say 2025, you know, the election is expected. So soon shall them start to know, build up some money now back in a Nigel Clark account. Who are these people funding Nigel Clark account? Look at get in at it. In 2018, the year Dr. Clark was first elected to Parliament in a special election, the foundation took in roughly 28 million, as I just showed above, right? Which sank to just above 8 million in 2019. In 2020, the year after general election, donations shot up again, surpassing 35 million, as I just explained. They plunged again in 2021 to 1.6 million and around 3 million right in 2022. They then rose again in 2023 to just over 15 million. Something just not right. We could take away that document and go to the panel right away because we are finishing up. I don't want to just finish up this report quick and fast, but let us just get to the panel and bite in. As you know, ladies before gentlemen, Sister Maria. No.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the pattern. But the question I have to ask is, you know, who are the beneficiaries of this charity's benevolence? Because, and what is the median income of the you know, his constituents? Because his constituents takes in Havendale, because this drug bust was in his constituency. So, you know, that's, I'd love to know who are, what's the median income of the people in his constituency. And of truth, do they really need this kind of benevolence, you know, or could it be spent in other places? But is it really benefiting people who are in need? Because I don't see how the government spends the most money and he has this charity, yet the people are poorer. That, something is not
In
adding
his
up right.
constituency. In his constituency.
Right. And the thing is it only that people benefit more during the election cycle? Because you notice during the election cycle, there's an increase in donations. And then the tax administration of Jamaica, do they have the power of oversight over these things? Because it cannot be, what are the election laws, for transparency? Because I know in America, there are election laws that, people have to know who the donors are. So,
exactly.
And certain amount of, exceed certain amount of money, they have to know. So I don't see, are those soft donors? Are those hard donors? I don't know, because, and the money is going to elections clearly, because it spikes during the election cycle and then it goes down. So by looking at the graph, you can see the pattern of the donations. So it is good to say, if one can say, well, yeah, this money is funding, his charity is funding elections. And is it a fair thing? Is it a right thing to do, given that it's a charity? And the name of his charity it's an interesting one, but then again, he has the right to name it whatever he wants to name it. But it's a limited charity, so he can name it whatever he wants to name it. But there are more questions than he's providing answers. And if there are no checks and balances from in the tax office, the tax administration, to rein in this kind of thing and to, as a matter of fact, ventilate it so people can know who are the donors, then they should pass legislation for the tax administration to do so. But here we are now. Here's where we come upon a brick wall. We have a government where so many of them are under investigation for illicit enrichment. How can they be trusted to draft legislation to hold them accountable and to ventilate the contributions that they receive, whether for charity or non-charity? So, more questions than answers.
All right. So, Rati, you have the opportunity to close the floor for us tonight in terms of your observation. Take it away, sir.
Well, I mean, this is just another example of how the loopholes are abounding in Jamaican laws.
Yes.
Because this Charities Act, or the one that governs charities in Jamaica, you don't have to tell them a whole bunch of information. I mean, the law is saying you don't have to provide this information.
Yes, the law said that.
And if you going back to the purpose of the funding, the purpose of the money, because as you show in 2018 when they had the special election,
yes,
spiked, and then after the elections dropped. So it would seem to suggest that that money was spent during that election period. And then in 2020 it went up again.
Exactly.
And looks like money is being raised just around that time. And for what purpose? Because here's the thing. This thing is called Growth and Opportunity Trust.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Limited.
Yes.
And it lays out what it's supposed to do. But then in that same report, it's talking about community development, so on and so forth. In that same report, they interviewed quite a few people, a number of people who said, we didn't see anything done in the community.
There you go.
We didn't see anything. It would seem to suggest that if the money wasn't spent on building roads and schools, where was it spent?
Where was it spent?
Where was it spent? And there you get into a whole bunch of things, the possibility of vote buying and all of that,
Exactly.
But here's something I found interesting. They said that the first article, they said that he won praise for strengthening the monitoring of non-profit sector, particularly the non-profit sector, for counterterrorism financing and anti-money laundering, this is where he excelled. Now, counterterrorism financing doesn't really apply to Jamaica. Jamaica doesn't have, at least, not one that we know of, a counterterrorism, a terrorism issue. Jamaica doesn't have one, right? But money laundering, Jamaica has that problem.
Yes.
Now, President Biden came out and said Jamaica is one of the 5 Caribbean islands involved in major illicit drug producing,
Yes.
major drug producing countries, or a major transit, right?
Yeah.
Jamaica produce weed, but like Maria said, weed has lost its value, except if somebody's interested in the Jamaican brand of weed. But if you're just interested in smoking weed, you can't get weed anywhere, right? So then it would be the major transit piece. Now, when you transit drugs, what do you have that goes along with transit? Money and guns.
And guns. Yes.
Money and guns.
Money
right?
and guns.
So.
And human trafficking to arm, Ratigan.
Human trafficking.
Human trafficking, right. Yeah. So right, Sister Maria.
So you're going to have a money laundering problem when you have a drug problem. You're going to have, because people are going to sell, and what's going to happen is that they're going to have money that they can't illicit gain, money that they can't legitimately account for. So what I see that there's a disconnect here, because the president is saying Jamaica is a major drug transit point. And when you have a drug transit point, you're going to have human trafficking, you're going to have, of course, drugs, you're going to have money, and you're going to have guns. And then they turn around and say, oh, Minister Clark won praise for his anti-money laundering efforts. And he said, I don't understand that. Show me the evidence of that. Show me the evidence. And then to add on top of that, to add another layer on top of that, his own charity. It would appear that there's some money laundering thing going on there.
Yeah.
Because you get this spike, we don't know where the money came from.
Exactly.
And then it dropped right after the election, and another spike before the election, and then the money's gone after the election. So this is all quackery. This is all nonsense. This is all convoluted. It's concocted. This is all a story, a feel-good story to let people say, yeah, they're doing things that are good. But they're not doing it. They're not doing things. And if you go back to the first report where they said under the Foreign Assistance Act, where they were saying that even if a country is making noble efforts to control the drug transit, drug producing, they could still be classified as a major illicit drug producing agent, country, or a major drug transit point, even if they're putting effort in. No, I'll ask the question to the authorities. Show me your effort. Show me the effort then. Or show me why the US government shouldn't label you the way they've labeled you. Show me your effort and tell me why. Because I can give them Buscabel.
Yes.
I can give them that, right? I can give them the Hivendale connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can give them playing in St. Elizabeth, playing in Clarendon. I can give them seizures at the port. I can give them seizures at the open.
So many,
right? Those are just seizures. But you know what? What this says is that something is wrong with Jamaica, or better yet, something is right with Jamaica if you're a drug if you're involved in drugs and you're trafficking drugs. Jamaica is ideally situated for that. And so even though they may seize, you still say, we're going to Jamaica.
Yes.
We're going to Jamaica.
Yes.
And what is the attraction? The attraction is this. Jamaica, despite their so-called efforts, has porous borders.
Porous borders.
Porous borders.
Right.
The government itself says they have over more than 100 illegal points of entry.
Yes.
That's not, and this is separate and apart from the legal points of entry where contraband is still flowing through there.
Yes.
So I just don't see how, for me, the connection is there between the first report, the Joe Biden report, and the second report. because the first report talks about all these issues, and the second report they say, oh, they're heaping praise on this gentleman because he's doing this, and that, and then the one with Zara Burton shows something is wrong here.
Something is wrong.
Where did this money come from? Where did this money come from?
There you go. Because you're going to tell me, Ratty, that you're going to tell me, Ratty and Mario, that it is coincidental that when it comes to the two significant years as it relates to Nigel Clark doing his political campaign, that one that ascending him into parliament, 2018 particularly, you understand, a large pool of money get into, right, his charity, right, 2018, where he is concerned. Again, look, again, when the money, a large pool of money get into Nigel Clark campaign, 2020. So are you saying that those 2 years, 2 significant years, where we have the strife of the campaign, right, that money put into Nigel Clark, it's funding Nigel Clark campaign?
Look, he could have. I mean, I urge people to go and read that report done by Zara Burton and her website. Yeah, it's an excellent piece because he could have said, you know what, I helped out families during that time period. I bought care packages, you know, I did this, I did that. But if you read his answer, he's saying, oh, I just complied with the law.
Yeah,
and that's it. He just said I complied with the law. And they're like, okay, but what did you do with the money? Tell us how did you get rid of this money? And you know, it's one thing if you ask somebody to say, tell me how you spend the money during the reporting period. That's one thing.
Yes.
Right? We can say the reporting period hasn't ended yet. So when the reporting period ends, I'll tell you.
Yes.
But when you get to the end of the reporting period, now you move over into another reporting period and you still can't get an answer.
Yes. It just, you know, well.
Yeah, but you know something Rattigan said earlier about tying both reports together, about what President Biden said and what Zara said in her report.
Yeah.
And you can understand why the Prime Minister is yet to give a press conference on these coke busts and this businessman who met his demise, I think it was on Saturday. Now, this businessman clearly is a part of the PSOJ clique because he's a businessman, he's well known, and you know, all of that. And I guess we're all yet to see a press conference from the Prime Minister on these major issues. So it leaves all these questions are just open, leaving hanging out there. And then you have this minister now with his charity having, you know, everything. So there are too many loopholes. And again, when we talk, we want to address the systemic problem of corruption in Jamaica. And nobody is trying to tear down a government. We're trying to make it better. We're about good governance, transparency, and accountability. Because at the end of the day, when there is none, it's the people who suffer. And when the people suffer, everybody suffers, right? And it's not that when the people say, oh, we want a third, it's not a political argument. It's an argument for truth and transparency and honesty in leadership, integrity in leadership, because integrity in leadership right now is terribly lacking. And yet this is the man who talked about signing a code of conduct, yet he didn't sign it. This is the man who talked about the International Commission, but he's not complying. This is the man who talked about constitutional reform, yet he violates the Constitution. So you look at all those things and you take them in its totality, and you see the problems facing Jamaica that force us to come out and say, enough is enough. And if not us, who? And if not now, when?
All right.
So to all the people who think that, you know, we should just send the barrels and shut up, in the words of Rattigan, this is not our mother's diaspora.
All right.
So that's just how it is.
Okay.
You know?
So, right. There you have it, people, as it relates to our closing arguments there. And I want to remind persons that right? Please remember to support the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation. Please continue,
Absolutely.
right, to
Absolutely.
do that, because you know Ratty is the man of checks and balance and transparency, right? In spite of certain distractions that being out there, right? We know otherwise, right? So we are appealing to persons to continue to do that, and remember also to support Daisy Magazine, right? Right, lovely Daisy. So Ratty, please, I would presume that you want to of course speak a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just tell everybody that the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation is inviting all of you to show up and show out on Friday, August 30th, between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. at 41st Street and 2nd Avenue in Manhattan. There you go. We have a new flyer, because those two organizations can take.
Okay, let me remove it.
If you want, I can send you. If you want, I can.
Send us the traffic, let us put it up right away.
Yeah, here's a new one.
The show must go on, you know. The show must go on.
Yeah, the show must go on, sister.
Yeah. Because and like I said, it's about accountability, and we have to get better governmental structure in Jamaica, one way or another. They have to shape up our ship out, and by any means necessary, government has to do better. Work for the people or go home. Cannot be both.
Couldn't say it in the better. Work for the people or go home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like I said, last week Saturday, we at the end of the program we talked about actually 4 issues that were of immediate concern to the supporters.
Yes.
And then I made a pledge that I wouldn't be speaking on these issues any further, particularly money matters, because money matters. We have a tax filing that's due in October. It's just around the corner, and once we're filed, and we're filing in 2 states. We're filing in one state and the federal government. So all of that information will be put on the website, so interested parties can come take a look. But I can tell you, you're going to be disappointed if you're expecting to see tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars, because the first dollar was collected in August, all the way through till December. And that's how they do taxes, to the best of my knowledge, in America.
Yes.
You file this year, you file for last year taxes. You don't file for the taxes in this year. For example, 2024 taxes will not be filed in 2024.
Until 2025. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So we're filing our 2023 taxes in 2024. And then people will have a look at it, and then they can, well, it's not only them, the IRS,
Exactly.
They're the arbiter of whether something is going right or wrong. So so we have nothing to hide. So we'll put it up, and then we'll just move on. We're moving on. So we're moving on with this protest. This protest, it's sponsored by the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation. There you go. So it's One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation invites Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica to raise our voices in protest against corruption, the big C, corruption, and another big C, crime, poverty, failed healthcare, poor education, etc. in Jamaica. All of those issues are relevant. Every single one of them that you see there. We say etc. because we have more. So and the crime issue it's front and center right now. So it's Friday, August 30th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 3. And I'll tell you something that's kind of weird. People used to tell them, say, if you did steal in mother belly one more day, you'd be a prophet. I don't know if it's true, but people have said it. Because last week Sunday when we ran, Maria and I ran on some show, he played a clip of a senior police officer giving the Prime Minister an impromptu brief on the side on the street.
Yeah.
It appeared to be orchestrated. Let's put it
Yes.
that way.
Yeah.
And he came out with his little black thing with his notes on it, and he's saying, you know, Honorable Prime Minister, I'd like you to know that murders are, I think he said murders are the same or whatever.
39%, something like that.
Yeah, but a lot of things were down. Yeah, and I said, you know what? I hope when something bad happens, I hope they come out and do the same kind of thing, you know. I hope they come out. And then somebody put in the chat that Rottingham Manchester City vote out on them. And 1 hour after the program over, sad to say, regrettably, we had the shoot.
It is sad. Yeah, that is true.
It's sad.
That is true.
You know, condolences, you know, reach out to the family, the victim.
That mother, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
it's sad. It's sad. What kind of a heart?
It's really a sad day.
All
right.
And this is what happens when you have people. This is what happens when you have people start celebrate, you know, have some false celebration. And when I say false, I'm talking about the statistics.
Yeah.
When they come out and they say, "Oh, it's down," and it's down.
Yes.
It's only August. We still have a long way to go, right?
True.
And don't forget again that the Minister of National Security is on record of saying that the Jamaica 200 illegal weapons per month.
Yeah.
Smuggled into Jamaica.
Yeah.
200, that's 2,400. So when they come and they tell you, "Oh, we caught we recovered 700 or 800," then you say, "Want to the rest?"
Exactly.
And this is just per year, so it's cumulative.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, like 24 come in, they get 500. So you say, "Want to that?" And 1,900. Then the following year, 24 come in again, they get 500. 1,900 again. So that's what. 38, right? 3,800 weapons.
Yes.
Not recovered, running out, you know, in the
exactly. and even with drugs and money, right? Because the drugs being confiscated, right? Ratty, we are not seeing where this particular government is showing any transparency in terms of the destroying of those drugs. Said you have you whatever drugs the law enforcement catch, right? I think the process of destroying the contraband should be publicly viewed, right? Where they can say, okay, all right, here it is that these drugs being destroyed. I've seen where under the People's National Party government in time past, whenever they confiscate drugs, they showed it as it relates to how they destroyed it. You will see a lump of it burnt out, right? We are not seeing that in the under the Jamaica Labour Party government.
They have a mechanism to do so.
Exactly.
Okay, you can't just light it on fire, right? I think there's a special way to do it, correct?
Yeah, they have incinerators, we put it. They have incinerators.
Yes.
But what I would like to see before they incinerate the drugs, I would like to see testing done. I would like to see how the evidence room is set up. I would like to see how it's monitored. I would like to see all that because for all we know, they might be burning flour or burning baking soda. We don't know.
That's so true.
Yeah. But as I talk about you know, the custodial safety of evidential properties, because it is obviously played. If you go back to even the Vibes Cartel situation where the Vibes Cartel phone was in the custody of the police, but yet it was used, right? And so then you're saying that, okay, does the police really have the ability, the capacity to really protect evidential property into custody? Because if you have Vibes Cartel phone put in custody, and then police going into, right? You know, it's crazy.
But better than that. Look at SSL. Look at SSL. It's a conspirators that's supposed to be in evidence. And even the situation, the mass shooting at Cherry Tree Lane, the crime scene was contaminated. So, you know, they're not doing the right thing. So you cannot trust this. You trust them. Listen, man, putting cocaine, any drug, form of drugs or guns in the hands of these people is rubbing the butt at the puss mouth, because they're just like, everybody's, and the thing is, it's the supers, you know, the supervisors and the bosses, not so much the rookies, because the rookies not going to get anywhere near to that drug.
Yes.
But the bosses are getting near to it, because guess what? They're in bed with the politicians and they're in bed with PSOJ, and they need to get them drugs. So exactly. I don't think all that drugs is still in evidence. If it's still there, then it means a foreign entity has some say in that. But if it's Jamaican authorities, they pilfer some already. Trust me.
Right, even the, sorry, go ahead.
No. There's something called evidence collection, right?
Yes.
And there's something called chain of custody.
Chain of custody.
Yes. And so evidence collection, you try to get the crime scene as pristine as possible. Pristine in the sense that how it happened. You don't want people traipsing through it, because then it's going to be contaminated. So you go from the crime scene and then you start doing a collection of evidence. And there's something called chain of custody, where you have to account where the evidence went until it's logged in.
Yes.
Now, in Jamaica, that's why so many criminals get away. They have a field day, because once the chain is broken,
exactly,
that evidence is finished.
And you going up against King Council lawyers, waiting, you're going to tear it apart. You know what? Let me point you to something, Ratty. If you look into the recent killing with the taxi driver by the police men, when they talk about evidence collection, you see a group of policemen walking through the crime scene. This is joke. A group of policemen walking through the crime scene. Unbelievable when I saw it. Unbelievable, Ratty. If you go back and look back on the clip, you see a group of policemen walking through in the middle of the caution tape, the yellow caution tape, walking through the crime scene. Unbelievable. And yet we were told that some of these investigators are the best of the best.
World class. They're world class. World class.
So then, you know, all right.
They're world class idiots, Rottigan.
Exactly. So unbelievable. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, locally and in the diaspora, we have reached the end of our program. I want to say a big thanks to Mariam, Daisy Magazine, and of course,
respect, my brother, respect.
As we said, and we have no hesitation in to see the fearless leader, Rattigan. Pick up yourself.
Leader of the one Jamaica leader. The one Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation. We have to make it clear that
yes, but Rattigan, we need to reinforce it that when a lion walking and you have mongrel about, steadfast, because we are lions. All right.
And lions don't bark, you know, lions roar.
Lions roar. Lions don't bark, lions roar. All right. So Rocky, big up yourself.
Yes, sir.
Blessings and respect. Have a good night. Mr. Anne-Marie.
Right.
Have a good night.
Blessings.
Cool.
All right. And the chat. Love you all. Right.
Blessings to everybody in the chat. Yes.
Blessings. All right. Cool.
All right, guys. So we are going to say good night and good morning. For some of you, it's after 1 and you're still here. So thank you so much.
All right.
Really appreciate the continued support and endorsement. And until Friday.
All right.
And
Thursday.
Aaron will be on Titans on Thursday.
Call of the Titans. All right. So we'll be running out on the Titans Thursday. And of course, Friday. You understand, as usual. You don't know what things said. You understand, coming out with the data. And we are asking people that when you get these information, it just help for you to make an informed decision. Remember, right, as it relates to the general election, I am telling you, right, vote PNP, People's National Party. We are not hesitating. Democratic socialism, right, equal rights and justice, stand to resolute for all. equal opportunity for all Jamaicans. Democratic socialism. I'm out.